Welcome to the Hollywood in Toto podcast, the right take on entertainment. The HiT cast offers a weekly look at Hollywood from a conservative point of view. Sick of media bias infecting Hollywood headlines? Tired of stars insulting your views? HiT has your back. Now, here's your host, Christian Toto.
Welcome to episode 40 of the Hollywood in Toto podcast. This week we've got a double feature lined up for you. First up, my interview with Mindy Sterling, one of the comedy's most versatile performers. You know her from Austin Powers, but she's also up for not one, but 2 Emmys for her work on Con Man and Sex and Exes. We've also got an interview with Doug Nichol, the director of a new documentary, California Typewriter. HitCast contributor and unofficial podcast mentor, Dave Minkus, conducted the chat, and it follows directly after my interview with Mindy Sterling. But before those chats, I wanted to talk a little bit about the simple act of going to the movies. We all know by now that the summer box office was a disaster. I think even James Cameron is talking about making a movie about it. But was it a blip? Will it be business as usual next year, or is something more permanent going on? Now, it made me think about when I used to watch movies the most. That was as a teenager. I couldn't scare up a date at the time. I was too young to go to a bar and drink, and I loved movies. So did my goofball friends, so we'd see a lot of films at the theater. I also didn't have Netflix, Snapchat, or a 65-inch TV to watch at home. Today's teens, they can have all of the above. They might even have a bigger screen. And that's just part of the problem today with moviegoing, because teens had all of that last year too, but the results weren't so catastrophic. You know, the culture changes really quickly in the 21st century. Must-see TV? That's like a punchline. I'll watch the shows when I want the shows, thank you. You know, we can consume content very differently than we did just 5 years ago. It's a real sea change, and I fear it's happening right now with the art of going to the movies, or more specifically, not going to the movies. For years, people predicted this was going to happen. Flat screen TVs, when they first came around, well, who needs the movie theater? You can watch a 40-inch TV at home and get something very similar. Well, that didn't kill the movie-going experience at all. And way back when TVs first came around and started kind of rolling off the assembly line, people said, oh, that's it. No more going to the movies. We can watch stuff at home. What's the purpose? We can just watch what we watch when we want to watch it and don't have to leave the comfort of our home. And of course, that's not what happened. People kept on going to the movies, and they continue to this day. But I just think something's different now. Now, looking ahead to the fall, we've got some movies that are guaranteed to make a whole lot of coin. Justice League, It, The Last Jedi, Thor Ragnarok. They're all going to make a small fortune. It's money in the bank. But what about the other films? Will they thrive? Suburbicon, Downsizing, other Oscar bait movies? Are people going to line up to see them, or are they going to kind of shrug their shoulders and say, hey, it doesn't look so bad, but I'll wait till it's on Netflix or cable or pay-per-view or anything else rather than going to the movies and paying top dollar to see it. There's another factor here which we've touched upon briefly in past episodes. It's the conservative factor. Conservatives are really crazy angry at Hollywood right now, and I have to say I don't blame them. Hollywood stars are getting more and more political, more and more angry, and more aggressive against virtually half the country. That's going to impact the culture and also what people do and don't do when they go to the movies. Maybe they just stay home and say, I don't want to support actor X or actress Y. That's a real factor when it comes to the downturn in the box office. Is it huge? I don't think so. Is it significant? Quite possibly. And of course, you've got the usual suspects. Popcorn is crazy expensive. People are talking and texting and not really paying attention to the movie. They're taking you out of the experience. That just seems to be getting worse and worse. All those things together add up to the fact that we may be seeing something in our culture where people don't go to the movies like they used to. They will still go. People need to get a night out in the town. Teenagers still want to get out of the house and check out a movie with their friends. The date movie is still a thing. I get that, and I certainly support that as well. I love movies, and I watched a whole bunch of them growing up, and I wouldn't want to see that change for any new generation. But will they do it in the numbers like we've seen in the past? I don't know. For the first time since I started following Hollywood and watching it and checking out the trends, I'm suspicious. I think things could be changing. But listen, we shall see. No one's got a crystal ball, but I think there's a lot of signs where people should be worried about what's going to happen. Something's got to give when it comes to the culture. and I suspect it's already started.
Dear friends in Christ, the Reverend Michael Spurlock.
From the studio that brought you War Room and Miracles from Heaven comes All Saints, a new pastor's first assignment to close a struggling church.
You're to sell the church, ain't you? The fact is, you had 12 people in that church today. Jesus had 12 people. He done all right, didn't he?
Refugees searching to find a new home.
What do you think will happen to them when we leave?
Let's keep them in our prayers and ask for God's help.
Aren't you God's help?
From a seed of faith grows hope.
I think God spoke to me. He wants us to save this little church by making the land into a farm. That voice you hear, be sure it's God's voice, not your own.
Starring John Corbett.
Back where we started.
We are not where we started. We're somewhere completely new.
All Saints. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested. In theaters August 25th. For tickets and showtimes, go to allsaintsmovie.com.
This week's hit tip of the week is Ben-Hur. The 2016 remake of the Charlton Heston classic got crushed at the box office last year. It was brutal. But let's be clear, remaking an iconic movie, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, the new film is actually pretty engaging if you take it on its own very modest terms. The cast is rock solid, including Jack Houston as Judah Ben-Hur, and the signature chariot race, it's really good, excellently choreographed. Does it replace the original? No, even though it had the technology of the era. It was still amazing then and now. But this is a very watchable film. And also there's a nice spiritual uplift, which is not heavy-handed, which is woven delicately into the story that I think people of faith will really appreciate. Now, Ben-Hur just got added to the Amazon Prime streaming lineup, which is a great excuse to check it out. Put those expectations aside. It's not going to replace the original film, which itself was a remake, but it's well worth your time.
I am Groot, and you are listening to my daddy's podcast.
Before this week's HitCast double interview, I wanted to share a quick plug for Rage Against the PC Machine. It's my first ebook featuring stories from stars who refuse to kowtow to the PC police. It's pretty refreshing, especially in these turbulent times where more and more artists are silent as attacks on free speech continue. You can find the book at Amazon.com, but really hope you check it out for two reasons. One, I think it's a fun read. I think you'll enjoy checking it out, but also help support the HitCast at HollywoodInToto.com by picking up the ebook. I appreciate it. Now let's get to my chat with Mindy Sterling. The Groundlings alum has a list of credits way too long to repeat here, but highlights include her villainous turn in the Austin Powers franchise and a spell on Desperate Housewives. Her work on the Comic-Con web series Con Man earned her an Emmy nomination, but then so did her performance on the web series Sex and Exes. She's funny, versatile, and she seems like the kind of actress who's very grateful for the fans who recognize her for all the different projects she has contributed to in recent years. Here's my chat with Mindy Sterling.
Well, first of all, Mindy, congratulations on the 2 Emmy nominations. And I was going to ask you, does that change? Does the phone start ringing more? But you work so much, so often on so many good products. Do you find that being that busy kind of keeps your, I guess you could say, your comic muscle all warmed up? I mean, does it sort of help you stay in the game when you're going from different projects and just always having something on your plate?
Well, first of all, it is completely lovely to have this ride with 2 Emmy nominations in the same category. I'm beyond, I don't even know what to say. It just gives me, it just rewards me with the idea that people appreciate what I do, even in a short form. And I'm very excited. And the win would just be icing on the cake. The nominations are great. But, when I'm busy, I complain. When I'm not busy, I complain. So I think it's the nature of an actor or a nature of me. Right now I'm busy and I'm really enjoying this busy because I don't have to memorize any lines. I don't have to work on anything to get in front of a camera. I love people and I love talking. So I'm just enjoying, that part of it. And then when it's all done, we'll see what happens. But I've been fortunate to, in the midst of all this, actually, to be doing a couple of little projects and some films and stuff. So, but nothing that I have to shut the door and I have to study for. So it's been great. It's just been great.
I think maybe 10 years or so, you said that you were appearing on a short form video series. Like, oh, well, that's probably low budget. You've never heard of the actors involved.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's all the big names. I mean, it's like there's been a revolution in content. And you've been in the industry for a while now. Talk about that and how a short form show can be terrific and interesting and attracts the best of the best. I mean, that wasn't happening a while back.
No, well, you know what? I can remember when my agent was talking to me about, oh, I want to send you in on this thing. It's for the, it's like a computer thing. It's on the computer. Well, as you can tell, I'm not very savvy on the computer. And so I thought, oh, my God, I don't want to watch anything on a computer. Why am I doing stuff for that? He's like, well, it's a new thing. And I was like, whatever. And now, because there's so much happening in the media, there's so many places to go and watch and be a part of, that who knew this was going to, blow up like this. So I am really grateful that there is this kind of stuff. I do a lot of web stuff, a lot of indie films, a lot of low budget things, but I do them because there's not a whole lot of money in them, but the quality or the work that is presented to me, or the part that is presented to me, or, oh my God, who else is doing it? Oh, great actors. So that we're all now a part of it, just in a different, place and a different type of programming or production. But it's all good.
Yeah, that's right. We'll talk a little bit about Con Man, because obviously you're no stranger to the Comic-Con circuit, but geek culture, much like the web series of today, I mean, it's a real revolution. And where when I was a little kid, if I had a comic book, I thought my friends might beat me up because I was a nerd, and now they might be because they're not reading a comic book. What is your take on this? I mean, you're sort of really invested in it. You've seen it. You've got a show about it. What is it about this particular moment in time that geek culture is so powerful and so potent?
Well, you're right. I mean, we know so many nerds, or we would call them nerds. My son, I have a 22-year-old son who is a nerd, who is in his, on the computer, and he knows this world, and he tells me things. I mean, I would go to him and say, if I was an animation show, hey, should I do this? Should I do that? Oh, Mom, you're going to be big in that. He helps me make those decisions of things that I don't know. And he already told me, Mom, you don't have a microphone on his computer, so stop it. So things that I need help with. And I love doing the Comic-Con circuit. I love talking to people. I love seeing their faces light up when they get to meet the person that did the voice of, or that did the show of, or, oh my God, you were in that kid's show, on Nickelodeon. Wow, what a great way to meet your fans and your public and have them experience meeting you as a real person. I just think that's wonderful.
Yeah, obviously your Austin Powers role is a real signature one. What are the ones that people, kind of mention to you when they meet you in person beyond Frau?
Well, the young people and the adults, don't get me wrong, I get them both. They know me from Nickelodeon, iCarly, and which, I mean, it was a series that was probably for 3 or 4 years. And I wasn't a regular. I did, maybe 6 of them, but they're iconic with children. They remember, they grew up with it. And the thing is, they keep playing these things. Yeah. So I get a lot of adults that grew up with that, and then the children that are now. Austin Powers is, pretty universal. That's wonderful and lovely. And now I've, crossed over to the voiceover world, animation. So when people know me from some of the things that I did, The Legend of Korra, I play Lin Beifong. They are like, "Oh my God, I didn't know you did that!" Or you find just another group of nerds that are really into what you do. I mean, that is a blessing.
Yeah. Early in your career, you weren't as busy as you are now. It's just a natural progression of where a career goes. In those early years, was there sort of a work ethic you employed that really helped you move up the ladder? Was there maybe advice you were given, or even, I know your dad was in show business, Dick Sterling. Did he sort of maybe help kind of, I guess, grease the wheels of your career early on, or was it just all hard work and talent?
Well, I think it was that, but he also told me, he said, everything that you do, just know is it's good for your resume. It's good for your resume. Just keep moving. Just keep working. It's good for your resume. It's good for your resume. And so it's true though. It's kind of like when you do things, it's like, you may look at my resume and go, wow. I look at it and go, oh, I had one line there I did, but I can detail it and think, I don't think that's that wow. But for people that are looking to cast you, or for people that want to see your work, or they go, oh my God, I remember that, it really does all add up.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's just, as things come along, really don't turn it down, don't question it, just find out more about it and see if that excites you.
Yeah. The Austin Powers film are obviously a beloved franchise now, but at the time, the first one wasn't a big hit. It was sort of a kind of a roll of the dice, a British spy genre mock-up.
Yes.
What was the moment that you realized it was catching on, that it wasn't just, excuse me, like a box office, it didn't do as well, but there's always a moment in pop culture where things catch fire. And I think I was kind of curious from your perspective, was there a moment where you realized that, hey, this is really getting a momentum here. This is really, people are really loving it in a way that maybe doesn't happen with most movies.
Well, I think, after the first one, when I read the script, I was laughing out loud. I thought it was like one of the funniest things I'd ever read, and I was so excited about being a part of that. And then, you're right. It did not get that recognition until it went to video. And then all of a sudden it popped. So I remember being I think I was in Maui and with my family, and getting the call, hey, what are you doing in October or whatever? And I went, what? And the idea that I was asked to come back and do it again. So then you knew this we had something special, because I knew it was special. I think we all knew it was special when we did it, but it hadn't reached that public yet. Yeah. So when then we got to do that second one, we knew this isn't just, something that's going to go away.
Yeah. One of the projects you're obviously nominated for is Sex and Exes. Talk about the show. It's a different kind of show. It may not have mainstream appeal, but I think one of the great things about the content world today is that you can have an online show. You can have different formats and ways to tell a story, where maybe this wouldn't get on broadcast TV, but there's a home for it all the same, and there's an audience for it. I mean, in a way that's kind of freeing for, I know you work with the Groundlings, and you've got that sort of background as a content creator in a sense, but talk about that all the different areas that there are at this point for an artist like yourself to kind of express yourself.
Well, that's the wonderful thing about it is, more and more actors are doing their own projects, because there's places to go with it. There's online, there's the web, there's YouTube, there's so many different places that you can go and feature yourself or your work. So when these little companies come up, and these production companies and stuff, they have this wonderful thing to offer you, and it's bringing in wonderful talent, because there's so much wonderful talent around, and not everybody is going to be on network. Not everything should be on network. I mean, look at what cable television has done with this business. It's insane. I'm a huge fan of Netflix. I think barely anybody watches regular TV. You know what I mean? Network. Everybody's on a Hulu. Everybody's on a Netflix or Amazon. There are amazing programs with amazing actors, and we're all given that opportunity to do things elsewhere that could not get on mainstream stuff. So, I mean, I'm probably the only one in Hollywood that is not writing something. I'm not much of a writer. I'm more of a collaborator. But my point being is everybody is doing something or giving themselves that opportunity to. And I think that's fabulous.
Yeah. Well, given your background, the fact that you can kind of do improv and you can kind of create things on the fly and work with people, do you ever find yourself in a set where there are people like yourself, and then there are people who just want, hey, I got the script, I'm going to read it, and I'm good from there? Does that kind of cause tension sometimes, or is that sort of a way where you can kind of bring those people in?
Well, I think a lot of, some stuff you'll read and you'll go, this isn't that funny. But they'll also say to me, I'm incredibly blessed. They say, hey, improvise that, don't worry about it, work around. And I just got a part in a little movie where I got to, here's the script, and here's your sides. I auditioned, but I got to play. And then off of my playing, then the director went, great, can you add with this and do that? Then they direct me. And I mean, it's not that I'm writing it for them, but I'm making it funnier. Yeah. I'm making it more in the moment. I'm helping and creating because I want the project to be good because I'm in it.
And also they trust you at this point. They know you can bring something special and something.
Absolutely.
On the scripted page. Yeah. Of all the people you've worked with, and maybe this is like naming your children, you can't name your favorite. Is there a particular actor you just absolutely loved working with or connecting with, or you just that he or she, I've got chemistry with them, and boy, we could just go out on the road and hit the town and make people laugh?
Well, I loved working with Alan Tudyk. I love he's incredibly gifted, and I really enjoy working off of him. I mean, there are a lot of people. There are a lot of sometimes you just get into a project and you realize, wow, you are fun to really work with. But I come from the improv world, so I've got my people that I've been working with forever. Tim Bagley, who has an amazing resume of things, and anytime that we have an opportunity to work together, we love doing that. From the Groundlings, there's so many people. I have a friend, Annie Sertich from the Groundlings, that her and I have gotten together, and we have written some projects together and are trying to do things with them. So it's just a chemistry, you find people and you go, oh my God, this is the best. And when I work and do improv at the Groundlings on Thursday nights, there is a group of people that we work with a lot, and those are the people I see you feel safe with. You know what to expect from them. They know what to expect from you, and it's magic.
Now, looking at all the roles you've done, I'm sure I'm going to guess there are a couple at least, but you don't have a lot of dramatic roles in your resume. I was kind of curious, is this something you'd be interested in pursuing, and what kind of roles do you think that might kind of take the shape of?
Oh, gosh, I'm always wanting to do something dramatic, something that lends itself to that. And I think that some of the things that I've done, there have been dramatic moments. It's just, I'm not featured as that. I'm hoping that, that will happen, that someone will give you that opportunity. Or like I said, how wonderful to do a good dramedy where you've got your, because we all have a sense of humor even when we're serious. So, and I do have that quirky side to me. So yes, I can be a, someone in turmoil, and also, I can find a way to add a little quirkiness to that as well.
Gotcha. When you think about, you're at the Comic-Cons, you're meeting the public, people recognize you for all the work you've done. Is there a particular, maybe an odd moment that you can share, an idiosyncratic exchange? Or, I know people can be kind of funny sometimes, and maybe not even ha-ha funny, but any sort of moment you can share?
Well, when somebody comes up to me, I've had people cry.
Oh my goodness.
I've had young people cry, and their mother's going, oh my God, she's shaking. There's crying. And, and you're like, oh my God. Think about that. I'm making someone cry and not yelling at them. So that's pretty cool. I've had people if I meet them out in public, oh my God, can you sign my hand or my shirt? I've had people come up and say, what do you do? You look familiar. Who are you? What do you do? What have you done? What would I see you in? And it drives me crazy, and I'll just go, you know what? Mindy Sterling, look me up. I'm going to sit here and give you my whole list, and you don't know who I am. Give me a break.
Give me a headshot.
People can be weird. Yeah, people can be weird. And, of course, then there's the people that hug you, and they, their hygiene's a little off. So I've learned to try to not be as, close.
Do you find that the exchanges are different now? I feel like in our social media age, and I think that people feel closer to stars at this point maybe than they would 20 or 30 years ago. Has sort of the type of exchange changed at all for you, or is it sort of pretty similar?
Well, I don't know, because I think as when I start working a lot and I start, you have more and more stuff out there, then people see you they see you in a lot of different things. So there is that attachment that they may have, or they want to know about the story. Well, what happens when she does this? And I love that episode when and this is like voiceover stuff, I don't know what I did back then. I don't remember. And so you're feeling like, oh, great, I don't know what I did. So, but, they get really invested.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a compliment to your skills, too, so. Well,
it is, and if you don't think that I get that way when I watch stuff, I'm like, I get so invested. I mean, Bloodline, Netflix, I was very much invested in all those people's lives. I didn't want that thing to end.
Gotcha. Well, actually, that kind of leads up to my last question, Mindy. One of the things we do with the Hollywood in Total podcast is we ask people, what are they watching now? What are they checking out? What are they reading? What's on their nightstand? And you just mentioned Bloodline, which is a great show. Any other sort of shows you could recommend or books that you're checking out at this point that you can share with people?
Well, I hate to sound like I'm really just, vapid, but I don't really read. Reading makes me tired. I mean, if I have to read something, I will, but a book and stuff, I'm not a great reader, so I've never really, if I do read something, though, I like autobiographies. So that is something I would read. If I'm going on an airplane, I have a long, trip or something, I would do that. I'm mostly a TV person. That's how I relax. I like I said, I'm a huge Netflix person. I just finished watching the series Ozark.
Yeah, that's true.
With Jason Bateman, and it was wonderful. And so I ask on Facebook and hey, what's everybody watching? And then I get the input from that, and then I'll start watching that stuff.
All righty. Well, we will spread the word about Ozark and Bloodline, two shows I recommend as well. Mindy Sterling, Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me. Congratulations, double Emmy nominations for Sex and Exes and also Con Man. And we will see you again in about a half dozen other projects before the year ends, I'm sure. So that's just the way your career rolls.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. I had fun.
You're listening to the Hollywood in Toto podcast, the right take on entertainment.
Now here's part 2 of this week's interview doubleheader. Director Doug Nichol walked into a typewriter repair store a few years back. He had recently bought a typewriter and figured, hey, I need to know where I have to go to check this out, maybe get a fix or two down the road. These things do break down. He left intent on making a short video about the family behind this particular shop. And that became the subject for his new film, California Typewriter. The documentary explores in loving detail why people like Tom Hanks refuse to let this technology go. HitCast contributor Dave Minkus spoke with Doug about the film and how he brought it to the big screen. I hope you enjoy it.
Well, it just kind of looking through your filmography and everything, it kind of seems like you're the rare filmmaker who gets to work on whatever you want. As a result, you've kind of jumped around in genres, whether it's, be seminal music videos and music films or short documentaries or short films, and even doing like a feature-length documentary now. What drew you to the subject matter in California Typewriter?
It was about, 5 or 6 years ago, I bought a typewriter on eBay just as a piece of art, to stick in my office in the corner. I got it for like $6. And I had it was an old Underwood. And I put it there, and it sat there in the corner of my office for about, a month or two. It didn't work. It was kind of rusted. But it would kind of call me over to it in a certain way of like wanting to fix it up for some reason. So I Googled and I found this one last typewriter shop in the Bay Area and took it over there and met this family, the Permillions, Carmen and Herb and then Ken. And I just immediately when I walked in the door, I love these guys. I love their passion for typewriters, and they were struggling to keep, and they believed that people were going to return to typewriters, which I thought was kind of a crazy dream. So anyways, I decided to make a little short on their shop, about a 3-minute short, to try to help them put it on YouTube and see if it could help get them business.
Totally.
And then a friend showed it to Tom Hanks, and he really liked it. And he said, "Hey, I'll do an interview for it." And then the film just kind of grew from there. It's something that I financed myself, shot, directed, edited, did pretty much the whole thing. And it was a labor of love. So I just followed them, and I started meeting other people like Jeremy Mayer, and turned me on to Martin Howard, and then the film just kind of evolved. And I worked on it, like I said, between my commercial work and stuff.
Cool. That actually kind of leads right into my next question. I mean, the film obviously centers around the shop California Typewriter. So when you went into this, I mean, when you went into doing the grander thing, did you already have these other people lined up, or did it just kind of start off?
The whole film came from the act of making it. You know, I didn't plan out anything ahead of time, so I didn't sit down and write a script or an outline or try to raise money like you normally do with any documentary. I just started making it, you know. So and it was the process of making it where I discovered things. So I would shoot something and I'd meet somebody and a door would open and I'd go down through that doorway and it would lead me on to something else. And so the whole thing just evolved from the act of, going out with my camera and shooting and meeting people, and it took on a life of its own. And I found as a filmmaker, my job was really to kind of shepherd it into something that it wanted to be, but I really feel that the film kind of had a definite life of its own,
Yeah, it felt like kind of it was going to go in one direction, and then people kind of started popping out of the woodwork, and you're just kind of wrangling it to try to just give it some kind of focus wherever that focus may go.
Yeah, and I like that. It doesn't have, it kind of moves in new directions all the time. But it keeps moving toward where I eventually wanted to go. But I like I was trying to create a feeling overall, with the making of the movie.
Oh, I'd say you
the
succeeded.
Feeling was the most important part for me.
You succeeded for sure. I had a couple questions about some of the actual filmmaking aspects of it. It's pretty common in a documentary. The first time you see so-and-so, you see their name and who they are. And was it a conscious choice to not do that?
To not put their names on?
Yeah.
Yeah. I decided, toward the end of the editing, I took the film and I did one pass of it where I put all the lower thirds, all the, everybody's name and what they do and all that stuff and locations, and here we are in Milwaukee or whatever. And for me, it just kind of cluttered the film, and it didn't really add anything to it.
Absolutely.
And I found it more interesting that everyone was just equal, that Tom Hanks was equal to, a typewriter collector or whatever. They're just human beings telling stories. And I wanted to keep it more cinematic, so I didn't want all that, all those words on screen, which didn't, I don't really think that adds to the enjoyment of watching it, And if you want to know who people are at the end of the film, they're all listed there in alphabetical order.
Absolutely. No, and I loved that choice. That's why I had to ask about it, because exactly what you said. It gave everyone, whether it is Tom Hanks or it's the poet who does the little poems for people, it gave more weight, that is to say equal weight, to the people who aren't famous as those famous people, and it just kind of meant people talking about something that they loved, which I thought was a fantastic touch.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that was my intent. It's like I just wanted it to be human beings. Some are famous, some aren't, but everybody has a passion for this machine.
Absolutely. Well, the other thing that I absolutely loved about the film is that there's this striking underlying theme of intentionality that runs throughout the course of the entire film, and its importance of life, and the importance of it being lost with how technology has come in, without ever coming out and saying it. Was that kind of a point of the film, or did it just kind of end up coming to a life of its own?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. For me, it was about creating a mood, and I walk around with feelings about life and how things change and how things disappear, Things are constantly disappearing, whether it's people dying or buildings getting torn down or technology is evolving or whatever, and that's great. I mean, I'm really excited about the future, but there's always a little bit of a bittersweet feeling about, as things disappear. So, yeah, that was I think the underlying feeling I was going for, is just how things change and, where we're going, and how some people embrace the future, are excited, like Jeremy Mayer, for instance. He destroys typewriters, turns them into his visions of where we're evolving to, as humans, eventually becoming, with artificial intelligence and robotics, becoming something else. And then Martin Howard, who is occupied with the past and his feelings of it for his childhood and things. So it's really a story about the past, present, and future, each told through different people. And the Permillions, they're just living in the present. They're just trying to survive, repairing typewriters.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up Jeremy Mayer, because what I found so interesting about him, every single person who's in this film has such an interesting and unique perspective, but it isn't even so much that he's destroying a typewriter, it's that he's lovingly, carefully, respectfully dismantling the typewriter and bringing it to a new use. Like how he makes a point of saying, look, the typewriters I'm using just can't feasibly be brought back to life. And that's why I have no problem doing this and why no one else should. So I really love the fact that there were so many different perspectives. And that was the one that could have gone so badly, but it was so respectful. Kind of like almost how Sam Shepard kind of referred to the typewriter almost like as a sacrament or an artifact of the church, with how much respect he had for that as an extension of himself and not just a tool.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's what I found interesting is the different people and their different feelings for this machine and how they use it. You know, some people use it for art, some people use it to create. But I mean, everybody's using it in a way to create, whether they're, you know, he's turning it into a sculpture, or they're playing music on it, or they're writing something.
Yeah, seeing John Mayer wanting to keep that as, you know, a physical documentation, you know, a historical artifact of his creative process, I thought was really interesting as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what he was saying in the film, is he likes it because he can just get his thoughts out from his head onto a piece of paper in the most direct, fastest way without anything interrupting that flow of ideas.
Yeah, and how difficult was it to kind of balance the love of this bygone tool with, or you know, not considering it bygone, but kind of juxtaposing it with the current trend of technology?
Well, that's what I try to do with, you know, I try to show like those scenes with the Apple Store, for instance, people all lined up in the rain, you know, hundreds and hundreds of people waiting to try to get in to get an iPad, with the shop, you know, waiting for one customer to walk in their door. Or the scenes I shot at Consumer Electronics Show and Mac World, you know, where people are just, you know, going crazy with technology, wanting to, you know, little things they can add on to their body, to whatever. And you know, juxtaposing that with people who are trying to stay human, you know, and trying to stay connected in a normal way. So
yeah, especially when you look at, like, at the very beginning, just, you know, it's the film grabbed me from the first 5 minutes. So like when Tom Hanks is talking about how much more it means to him to have someone spend 70 seconds to pound out a thank you note on a typewriter as opposed to the 7 it takes to send in an email, it kind of gets back to it's an interesting, once again, juxtaposition about talking about how current technology can kind of diminish the value of communication without being demeaning. That's a heck of a balancing act, man.
Yeah, it was hard. I mean, for me, the editing was the hardest part of the film, because I shot most of it, and then I sat in the editing room, like, with all my scenes taped up on a wall and with index cards, trying to figure out, you know, how the whole puzzle goes together. You know what? And I started finding connections between scenes, and I would just, you know, sit there, and it was like working on a big crossword puzzle, and helping it to flow together. So that was the hard part of making the film.
Fair enough. I'm curious what the reaction has been, because it's easy to go in and say, hey, this movie's just going to talk about typewriters as a hipster tool or something, and then you end up having something that comes up, bringing up these deep, profound philosophical ideas. Have you ended up having these kind of conversations wherever the film's been screening?
Yeah, you know, the hard part is getting people to see it, because I think a lot of people, maybe they look and they see a movie called California Typewriter, and they think, oh, this is just about a bunch of old typewriters and people talking heads, but it's not that at all. You know, it's you know, it's kind of like I said, it's a feeling about creativity and where we're moving. So, but once people actually get in the theater and watch it, then I've had really great responses to the film. So, which has been great. You know, it's been great meeting people and seeing how touched they are by the film and what it means to them.
Fantastic. Well, the film is going to be screening in Denver this week. Where does it go from there?
It's going to go into it's Denver, and then there's a bunch of different markets that the distribution company is putting it in, back east and in the south and San Francisco and places like that. So, on the website they're putting all the different theaters up there. So hopefully, it will grow, and then in November sometime it's going to go on to iTunes, so people can watch it there.
Fantastic. And what website can people go to find out more about the film?
Oh, to CaliforniaTypewriterMovie.com.
Fantastic. I'm assuming if you just go to CaliforniaTypewriter.com, you get the actual shop.
Exactly.
Which is awesome.
Which I'm trying to help. I mean, honestly, the reason I made this movie was to help the family in their shop. And, you know, if at the end because people watch the movie and then a lot of people want a typewriter afterwards. So if people can discover the shop and family and buy a typewriter from them and help keep them going, that then my original purpose has been fulfilled kind of in making it.
Well, I'm kind of taking the idea of it. I'm starting it with this review, actually. I'm going to do the good old-fashioned vomit dump of a review, and then instead of just changing it, keep that as a draft, and then create new copies and new versions so I can look back. And I'm going to actually look at doing that just as I do reviews going forward. So I thank you on a personal level for making this film.
Oh, good. Thank you. I mean, that means a lot that, that you got something out of it in that way, too.
It was fantastic, yes. So, yeah, I thank you so much for your time, sir. This has been a wonderful chat, and it's a fantastic film. Everyone needs to see it ASAP.
Well, thanks. Thanks so much for the support.
Well, thanks again for listening. Don't forget to check out HollywoodandToto.com for both the show notes and, of course, the latest entertainment news. Please follow me at Twitter at HollywoodandToto. And we'd love it if you leave a podcast review over at iTunes. See you next week.